Today, we're here for another Guitar Coach Reacts to guitar players and guitar solos. And here with us today is my great friend, Mr. Rueben. Cool. So today, Rueben is playing on an A minor kind of all along the watch tower style backing track. However, there are certain people on my YouTubes that say, it sounds like no all along the watchtower I've ever heard before. It's like, okay, well, you only know one version, so whatever. Anyway, we got Rueben doing some soloing today, and what we're going to do is I'm going to critique him a bit, kind of coach him a bit, and yeah, we're going to see how he does. He's already a great guitar player. Let's make him better. We just heard a little bit of your playing, and right away, you're navigating the fretboard really great. You're doing a great job with that. That's awesome. It seems like you're using a mix of boxes and some kind of diagonal stuff, doing a lot of minor pentatonic, and then a little bit of throwing in, since this track is A minor, G, F, G, you're also throwing in a little bit of that like F note for Aeolian, right? Any other thoughts about kind of the way that you're approaching soloing on this?
Not a lot. I mean, I can hear the melody of the original in my head, and so like I tend to kind of come back to that a little bit, but then also play around and embellish, move around, and just kind of fill out what sounds good. And obviously, it's influenced by recent lessons and practice where we've been doing some 16th notes focused on certain beats, and so I tried to throw a little bit of that in there. Not really a whole lot of super focused thought, honestly. Just kind of
That's cool. That's
going with
okay.
feel.
Yeah, sweet. So obviously, this is a little weird compared to normal guitar coaching because you know that this is going to be shown to potentially some people on the internet, right? So it feels a little more like you're in performance zone, right? So definitely just kind of feeling your way through is totally cool because it's like you're on stage, And I'm a big proponent of not overthinking when you're on stage for sure. Okay, like the first thing I want to talk about, this is something that I've actually been working on with some people recently. One of the things that I hear in guitar players a lot of times is shortness in their notes. And it's a shortness that doesn't necessarily fit the groove. And what happens is on a track like this that has like a lot of 16th notes, it's like doing a lot of 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... What we have the inclination to do is follow that and play exactly that. So innately, it kind of makes us play a little bit shorter than maybe we would on other tracks. Okay, so before I have you turn on the track and play again, this neat little exercise that I had somebody do this week was, I want you to play, and one thing I'll go ahead and say is like, the tone is cool, very good, it's perfect for the song. It's like lightly overdriven, some nice verb. Like, what are you playing through right now?
This is the heavy hand on
Cool.
glass through a Benson preamp, the Flint reverb into a Trigens Kingston amp, which is basically a Princeton.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, nice setup for sure. All right, so yeah, the tone is great. And when you have a great tone, this exercise is way easier. If you feel like you sound like junk, this is not going to be an easy exercise. For 1 minute, I want you to act like you're improvising over the track, but you're not playing over the track. Instead, I want you to play unaccompanied. And what I want you to do is I want you to connect every single note as much as possible. The nice thing about taking the track away is that all of a sudden you can start to hear what you're doing a little better. So for example, notice how every single note that I play, it's not that they all have to be slides or hammer-ons or whatever, but they have to connect to one another. Part of that comes from not overpicking in the picking hand, and part of that comes from just trying to play everything as even as possible and then literally making the notes last as long as possible before you play the next note. And the guitar is such a staccato instrument that it's really hard to make it consistently sing. So, without the track, will you try that?
Okay.
It's interesting. Does that feel different to you?
It feels sadder.
That's great. No. The saddest of all guitar practice. Okay, cool. Yeah, the interesting thing for me is that it felt like they were more connected, and one thing that I challenged this other person to do was, try to play a little bit like that every day where you're playing really connected and you're just hearing yourself. Because sometimes when the track's going, it influences us like just way too much. All right, so right away, another thing that I want to see you do, and this would help with this exercise too, but just lighter touch in the left hand. And I can hear that when you do, like, you're sliding up on the 7th fret of the G up to the blue note and back. So if you have too much pressure, it's hard to make those slides, and that's one of like the leading indicators for me when I'm listening to somebody that their left hand is fretting a bit too hard. And it's like you have to learn to like balance playing powerfully with playing as relaxed as possible. And they kind of in hand kind of go together at some point. But like for right now, if you just played a little bit lighter and dialed it back, I think that it would help your playing a bit. So again, unaccompanied, will you play for me a little bit and think about how light can you make the left hand touch? Interesting. So it took you a moment to get used to it, but then the whole rest of the time it was like so much more fluid and connected sounding. Did you experience that?
Yeah, like everything up here was like, oh, and then like down here, and then like when I came back, I was like, oh, okay.
That's how you do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think part of that is that when you're applying too much pressure into the string, it just prevents the resonance of the string to happen, right? And so you end up just getting this like it's a similar thing to like what I describe in the picking hand when people are over picking in the right hand. Basically, the strings are just slapping against the frets and basically like almost dying right away. So it's like you're just overdoing it. And if you dial it back a little bit, you can always dial more energy. I don't ever want to like make someone feel like I'm taking their like emotional quality of their playing away, but like learning to play even and smoothly, it gives you so much more room to go when you're trying to play those like punch in your face kind of like boom lines. And it gives you like that kind of measuring stick essentially. I think just one other thing before maybe I have you play again is if you want to use the kind of Aeolian notes, which specifically would be that F note because that one's a little tricky. Like if you're in Aeolian shape 1 here at the 5th fret, just make sure that you don't land strongly on it. I'm going to try and play for a moment. This is such a tricky note because it gives you the color of Aeolian, which is really cool, but it sounds so bad. So if I hit it like this, it's rank, right? But yeah, it's just like ooh doo doo. But if I either pass through it G F E, or I also like G F and slide into E, that's cool. Or go the other way, I can really make that sound nice. So I passed through it a couple different times, and it really, some people would say, "Oh yeah, don't put it on a strong beat, or like don't put it on, one of the beats that is going to be a powerful beat, like the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. Definitely don't land on it. You can put it on an and, like 1 and 2, and that's going to sound really good. So when you're being coached like this, I just said a bunch of stuff to you, obviously, right? so, so it's going to be hard to execute each of those things. But just kind of keep them in mind, and how about we have another go at it? Ooh, there he goes. All right, so you played so again, I want you to play that, and I want you to play everything, in a similar way, except this time I want you to play again. The only thing I want you to focus on is keeping everything long. Do you hear how that's different than? And this one, the short one, is what guitar players innately they're just gonna do it. They're gonna play that way, right? Because the guitar is staccato, and the first part of the note is the loudest thing that happens. So if you can just always err on the side of trying to connect every note where like the last note doesn't stop before you play the next note. It's wah doo 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 doo, just like you're breathing air into the instrument, like a sax, or you're using a violin bow, which you have the whole bow to go, and all the notes are just going right. The guitar is like picky, pick, 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 pick. So out of all the things that I talked about previously, I just want you to play every note as long as possible. I don't mean slow. I just mean as long as possible. Very good. So that was way more connected. Okay, so now I want you to take that connection level, but rather than feeling like you have to play slow notes to play connected, like realize that, okay, let's bring in some of those 16th notes. Can I make those connected? Like when I played those, it wasn't, right? That's an extreme exaggeration, but that's kind of what happens, right? So we want, and part of the thing is like, it's like you have to be thinking so far ahead that like the left hand has to be like, okay, where am I going, right? So kind of seeing ahead. And I do think it's like super important to mention that this is all practice room behavior. This is not like something that I say, oh yeah, I want you to go on the gig, or I want you to go to the jam and be thinking about this. When you go to the jam, you just play and have a good time. But like when you are in the practice room, if you can think about this stuff, it's going to make such a difference for you when you actually have the opportunity to go play. So let's try again and feel like you can play faster notes, but you're still going to make them as connected as possible. But do not play fast right away. I still want you to think about shifting those gears, right? So start slow. I knew you were going to play fast right away. I knew it. So you're going to start out kind of playing slow, and then you're going to try to work your way into the faster subdivisions like the eighth notes and the 16th. And then as you do that, you're staying connected, shifting like a race car.
It's not, that's nothing to ask for.
All on the spot, yeah. On YouTube.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I mean, like for me, that was like loads better. Obviously, you're kind of like pacing, and you were kind of slowly pacing. In a real solo, you might move more quickly between the subdivisions and stuff. But you were obviously kind of like checking yourself and moving forward and approaching it in a practice kind of solo way. But the coolest thing is like comparing that, which everybody on the channel, you can listen to Rueben earlier when he was first playing. He was playing lots of great ideas, but the notes weren't very connected. They didn't sound like they were connecting to one another as much. And I think that particular approach, it was just so much more connected. So if you can keep that in mind and then go off and play like a little bit more freely, I think that's like the winning ticket for sure. Awesome, man. Thank you for being willing to do
Absolutely.
this.
My pleasure.
And thanks everybody for watching the video. Appreciate you checking out the channel. And I'm going to be doing some more of these Guitar Coach Reacts videos. These are really fun for me. And I'll actually be doing some giveaways to where if you're in my community or you're on my newsletter, you'll be able to sign up to win a free coaching that I'll put on the YouTube channel. So make sure to look out for that soon. And Rueben, hope you have a great day.
Like and subscribe.
Oh, like, subscribe, comment, and also make sure to watch this video next.